All right, we're starting.
Okay, it started.
Welcome to our class. I'm Squire Cornix, the Squire Mellori. We're going to teach you the basics of how to hold and use a sword and board.
Alright, so starting out, there are two main stances. You can either be offensive or defensive. An offensive stance, you're going to have your sword foot forward, and then a defensive stance is the exact opposite. You're going to have your shield foot forward. There's advantages to each, but overall I would say have the offensive stance, because here I have a ton of room, like I can reach him, I can get him. But yeah, defensive, there's no, I can't reach. Even now.
Stand offensive. So, the only thing I can shoot for is her arm here. She can reach all the way to my shoulder here, because she's offensive versus my defensive. So she just has longer reach, because your sword is closer to your opponent.
You essentially gain like 2 feet. That's average.
Being weird.
What are we going into? If you're gonna do defense, which you should because you have a shield, there's passive defense and active defense. So active defense is easier kind of with a punch shield because I have more range, I can move around, I can put it behind me if I want. That's wild, I do it anyway. While a strap shield is kind of better for like passive, because like, this is passive, he's not moving.
Don't have to move the shield, but I'm almost completely protected. The most you're going to do to do like passive blocking is move your body, so that if she throws my back there, if she throws to my front this way.
Active blocking is moving it entirely, so like if you're going to swing at me, I move. It's like basically just characterized by like big wings up your shield.
You can do it with like I can do more active blocking with this if I really wanted to. It's worse at it than a punch shield is. And the same thing, like passively, the punch shield rocks in your hand. You don't have as much control over it, so it's a little worse at passive than a strap shield would be. So when you're fighting another sword and border, especially versus like a passive block, if I can throw shots all day at her shield, but her shield is going to block those shots. To get over that, it's good to remember that with this angle, if my hand is lower than the shield at where I'm striking at, it's never going to make contact. Unless you are just muscling to move the whole shield, it's never going to make contact. If you're going to throw a shot, your hand has to be higher than her shield is. And that's in any direction. So if I come here, if my hand's not past her shield, it's going to be hard for me to go past her. But if I go low, your hand has to be past the shield, typically, to get around a shield.
That's it here. Assign me up. So luckily A5s have a thing where our reverse moves differently than yours. So like I can just over.
That hurts.
It does not hurt.
To shoot over, I'm twisting my wrist.
Take your glove off. So you can see it. Drop your screen. So like if you make a fist, you see how his fist is very squared, it's boxed off. Mine curves down. So this is just one of those like unique things between AFAB and AMAB. If I flick my wrist this way, he cannot do that.
Like that's as far as my fingers want to go. She's almost vertical. Like that hurt. Like all of this top. It puts a lot of strain on that tendon. So when I'm going to go over something, I'm turning over it.
And I can just drop my stuff.
She's hacking, guys. She's hacking.
Like
So a lot of times I'll be like, do this grip, but I'm like, I'm good. I'm good, guys.
Without a glove, my shot looks like that, while his shot is boxed off like that. Not that I can't throw this shot as well, it's not comfortable as for me. This is easier. Little differences. It's also different how we hold our swords. So again, his is very like boxed off and squared. I only hold my sword with 2 fingers, and then I like use my thumb to flick my sword like this. Boxing it like this is not as good for me. This is kind of a personal preference as well, but is a trend in many AFAB fighters.
When you're facing off, footwork. Every weapon style is footwork. It's all important. So it's important that when you're going at another opponent, that we're not just doing this. We're not just going back and forth. You want to go vertically. You want to step around. So a lot of your shots, I can get so much more coming around this way than if I was to just stand here and go that way. So together. You see?
That's my back and died.
Right. So it turns at best an arm to back because I'm moving and throwing. You want to do. You always want to try and do at least two things at once. If you're just doing one thing at once, then you're not making any progress. That's why when you throw a shot, throw more than one shot. If I just throw a shot and reset, throw a shot and reset, she's got all this time in between what I'm doing to do whatever she wants. Shot, yeah. More than one thing. A lot of you guys are already getting that. Like, I fought some phenomenal swordboarders out here already. Good job, guys. This class may not be for you, but...
And part of that too is just like, even if it's the same shot that you throw twice, just keep swinging. They're gonna panic. Maybe. Usually they do.
My turn. Who here knows or thinks they know how to throw a wrap?
I think I do.
So, basically all a wrap is, it's essentially how I was talking about how I swing around a shield. All a wrap is, extension, turn the wrist over. So we come here, and I'm going to go here, turn. So instead of just throwing a shot, if I throw over, it could work, but I have to do all that extra work. Instead I just go here, turn over. Or here, turn over. There's a wrap shot, simple wrap. The alternative is a dark side. It's just a wrap in the other direction. So go here, turn over. If you can effectively learn how to move a dark side into your shots, you're going to have the next step on anyone who's been fighting just as long. Dark sides just eat people. It's essentially what you're doing is lefty hip wrap. So you talk about people like, are you left-handed? The advantage of right-handed people is because there's no shield in the way there, and they just wrap, and so it's just open. It's just easier because your shield is all the way over here. Wrap over. Same thing with the dark side. It's just like a lefty wrap. You want to really be careful. There's a lot of wrist movement. You don't want to torque your wrist when you're doing it. You don't want to loose wrist. You want to structure, turn over. It's more full arm than it is just wrist. If you're just throwing your wrist, you're going to hurt your wrist. So it's here, arm, and wrist. I'm turning the whole thing out here, and then just wrist. That hurts. Aggressive swordplay. So, shield contact. Per the Belegarth rules, you can do shield to shield. You can do shield to body. You just cannot do shield to face. You can also shield to... I'm not going to go into shield kicks here because that's next step up. But you can be just as aggressive with your shield, especially if we're here and I shoot, knock your shield down, throw it high. Or if I just push here, go around, your shield is another weapon. It can't do any damage, but it can affect the fight just as well. So remember that it's not just protection, it is a tool.
It's also another reason why if you're holding a shield, you don't want to put it up here. You're going to break your nose, you can break a tooth. You want to hold it more down here. I used to have a bad habit of putting here. I still like to do that sometimes because I'm lazy and I like to face on my shield, but don't do it.
If you do anything that causes shield to face, even if it's your opponent's shield to face, you are still in the wrong. So be careful when you are doing shield contact. Make sure you're not throwing up and causing weird stuff to happen. When you get into kicking, you don't kick someone's shield up into their face, stuff like that. Anything you do, if it causes an injury to your opponent, is your fault. It doesn't matter if they were doing something weird. If you do something and the result is an injury, your fault. Are there any questions or anything you guys have seen that you want to know how to do specifically with sword and board stuff? That maybe. What's up, Murphy?
The money shot?
The money shot. So literally all money is mixing a wrap and aggressive footwork with active shield play. So we line up here, and I'm going to. You do best. Go ahead.
So for money, you're going to want to step out. A lot of people go full table. I don't necessarily do that. I like to keep my board up kind of an angle, so when he hits, it'll slide off easier.
to even be able to block, especially if I'm using a strap, I have to turn it all the way over here. You're shooting for hip, is where you want this to end. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's going to end up being leg. If you can throw twice,
Yeah, always throw twice. You're gonna get.
you have better results. Either you hit the leg twice, or you hit the leg and the hip. At worst, you hit
My
something, you hit
cinematography's
shield.
not so good.
But yeah, it's a mix of the three things we've already gone over. So it's wrap, aggressive footwork, active shield play. So from that side, it's going to be there's a lunge. You want to be careful. The whole point you're doing this is anytime you change planes, when I go this low, my head is now where my torso was. So you have to be careful about when you do this. You are taking the chance that you're going to get hit in the head. So that's why active shield play. You're watching for that shot.
Also, don't want to blind yourself.
You do not.
Shield, though. If you go like this, get back over here. If I go like this, I can't see him anymore. So now the only safe space for me to like swing is down here.
Right. Do not throw shots where you cannot see where they're going. That goes into other things like when you start doing like spins with reds and stuff. When you make a spin, you don't swing for contact until you have turned to see where it's landing. Don't throw a shot if you don't know where it's landing. So we don't do this where I can't see. It's just not safe. What's that?
So you can do money. You can do it planted, which is what we were doing. It's what it looks like. You can do it like mobily too. So if I just wanted to charge past him, I could.
Getting all the way around.
Just keep going.
Is there a left-handed version of money? Because I can see how if you are doing that from
I mean, you can. Yeah.
so from a lefty versus right-handed perspective, if you lean over for that, then you're just opening up.
Yeah. So from left-handed versus a right-handed person, it's a little more dangerous because you're going towards your sword side. So you're active. You're more active. You want instead of just putting it up here, your shield is going to come here to meet and come around. So you want to neutralize that sword as it's going around. So turn this way so they can see a little better what I'm talking about. So I'm moving, and I'm gonna go here. Money.
You do have to be careful not to smack their sword into their face, though.
So again, any active shield play you do that causes an injury.
I would actually drop your shield.
Yeah.
Yeah, come back. Do it again, slow motion. Come in. Drop down. Yep.
Same thing. No. Okay.
Which is a little safer. You'll have to go down a little lower.
I mean, it's hard. It is more difficult to do money versus the matching weapon style because the sword's there. Yeah.
When you go in to like attack your opponent, you always want to go in to their sword side. Because like if I go into his shield here, I'm giving him my back. But if I go into his sword, sorry, that was a little.
No, you're fine. Here, the best I'm getting is
the best is he gives his leg. And at this point, I should have already killed him.
So you have to deal, and that's another thing that translates into any other kind of fighting. Before you throw away all your defense, you have to address the weapon. You have to do something with the weapon.
The best practice for getting like decent at sword and board is to actually just fight single blue, because you learn what you need to do for blocking yourself, like with your like 4-man shield here. And then once you actually have that shield, you're like, oh wow, look how more protected
It's the same thing, because if you think about, I'm standing here protected. This is how I hold my hand when I'm doing single blue. Typically, it's the same thing. It works the same way. One, I don't lose my arm. It just blocks all day long. So, and that's when you can really start playing with those wraps and stuff, because you don't want to take your opponent's arm in a single blue, because they're going to throw two, and if you're not addressing the weapon because you're throwing a shot, then something else is going to happen. So you want to try and wrap around or get something else. So you just, when you're doing single blue, you don't want to throw for the shield. Just like when you're doing sword and board, if you just attack their shield, you're not attacking your opponent.
Yeah.
Same thing.
There are some times when attacking a shield is decent, so like, will you come up here?
Me?
Yeah. Okay. Come here. So if those two are like, just stand next. If those two are like up here next to each other, and like say I had a partner here as well, I could like, look at me, distract them, because they're like, oh shoot, you know, like I'm getting attacked, my shield's getting hit, I gotta do something, while my friend goes, whoop, and kills him.
So
Yeah.
that goes into line fight support, shield, sword and shield. You're there to protect and dress. You need dress. Anything else you can think of?
Are there any other shots you guys want to go? Do you wanna practice some things?
Yeah. We can pair up and I'll walk around and see how you guys are throwing, give some tips and pointers. So find a friend.
Want us to throw?
Huh?
Anything we should
Practice your wraps. If you have straps, practice your passive versus aggressive shield play.